All right. So we're in here. I think we have a few people in the audience. So I'm gonna wait till the live stream loads up a little bit before I start. But I want to thank everybody for joining. And this is a little different from other topics we discussed at Trump and the GE. But today's topic is Trump and the GE. Ta-Nehisi Coates hit with copyright infringement lawsuit. And I'm just going to walk people through the lawsuit, just trying to make the public aware of what's going on. I'm not sure the public is really aware of this or the implications of it. So I'm just going to let the live stream load up a little bit. Okay, so here goes. So I'm just going to read. So my friends and family who know I've been talking about this for a while now, that I've been alleging that Ta-Nehisi Coates has been copying content from my book and plagiarizing content from my book and trying to write my cadence and write my linguistically trying to sound like my book Shock Exchange. And I've been talking about it for a while, and they're pretty much getting tired of it. Hold on one second. Let me get a copy of the book, actually. Okay, for people who aren't aware, this is what the book looks like. It's called Shock Exchange, How Inner City Kids from Brooklyn Predicted the Great Recession and the Pain Ahead. This is what the book looks like. And I published it in 2012. And I sent, it was reviewed by Library Journal in 2013. Probably one of the first times in history of independent book has been reviewed by a major publishing house, major book reviewer. I sent it to, in 2013, second half of 2013, I sent the book and review of Library Journal to several members of the media, including Mr. Coates at the Atlantic. I never heard back from him, but apparently he liked it a whole lot. That's what the sort of mini press release says. And that was his first novel, Water Dancer, which I purchased in 2019. I immediately noticed how he had attempted to mimic my dense rhythmic prose, which is what the lawsuit is alleging. That I became aware of it with the Water Dancer, which has gotten a lot of hype in PR. So I was curious about it, and I bought it. And I also noticed how the main character Hiram sounded like a description of my life. And it looks like what I'm alleging is that the other characters in the Water Dancer were based on descriptions of my parents and my grandparents from Shock Exchange. And so I've been talking about this for a while, and my friends and family got tired of hearing me talk about it. They basically said, when are you going to sue this guy? So I had to go through with other books and articles over the past that he had written over nearly a decade. Between the World and Me, The Water Dancer, We Were 8 Years in Power. Also, it looks like from alleging that he started copying content in my book shortly after I sent it to him in the second half of 2013. So beginning with the case for reparations in 2014. That's what I'm alleging. So over, a while of going through with articles and books, trying to find, where the stuff is coming from. And also I had to go to the law library a lot. Spent a lot of time in the law library trying to understand copyright law and trying to get familiar with copyright law. I finally brought the case, filed the case last month, September 19th, in the New York Southern District. And the case is called Baker versus Coates. It's out there. I'm not sure that people are really aware of it because the media is not really covering it. I just want to make people aware of what's going on and the implications of the lawsuit. So I'll just give you the skinny of all the defendants involved and co-defendants. It's about 25 defendants and co-defendants, because there are a lot of institutions involved, a lot of people making money off of it, and what I'm alleging, and a few derivative works, plays and movies. So Mr. Coates is who I will call the defendant. Is named a company called BC Literary Inc., which owns the copyright for some of his books and articles, for some of his books rather. The Atlantic, which published numerous articles written by him, which I allege are plagiarized. Laura Ring, Paula Jobs, Steve Jobs' ex-widow, who's a majority owner of the Atlantic. David G. Bradley is a part owner of the Atlantic as well. Bertelsmann SE, I think it's a German company, which owns which owns Random House, which published his books. Spiegel and Grahl, which published Between the World and Me, which used to be owned by Bertelsmann. Chris Jackson, which is an editor for several of his books. A couple other editors for The Water Dancer, who I won't name. The Apollo, which turned Between the World and Me into a stage play. They performed the stage play at the Apollo, the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., and the Atlanta Symphony Hall in Atlanta. And they performed this play in front of sold-out crowds, and this play would be considered a derivative work of the book. So I'm suing them as well and asking them to stop promoting it. Maceo Land, which is a production company, which I understand the defendant, his wife, and a lady named Camilla Forbes, who also worked for the Apollo, is are collaborators in Maceo Land. They're looking to turn The Water Dancer into a movie. I'm trying to ask them to stop. Camilla Forbes, who I understand is a college classmate of the defendant, he and his wife are all collaborators in Maceo Land. She also produced the stage play for the Apollo. I also understand that she was one of the producers for the TV adaptation on HBO. Susan Kelechi Watson, I think she's an actress who plays on a show called This Is Us, who's a college friend of this guy. I understand that she helped produce the stage play of Between the World and Me on HBO, the TV adaptation. Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns HBO, Miss Oprah Winfrey, who's trying to turn The Water Dancer into a movie. I'm asking her to stop. The Walt Disney Company, which owns, Marvel Comics, which produced the comic books, Black Panther comic book, and Captain America, and also the Black Panther movie. I'm suing them as well. Apple Inc., who put an interview of Coates and Mrs. Winfrey on their streaming service. I'm asking them to take it down. Plan B, which is owned by Brad Pitt, which is looking to turn The Water Dancer into a movie. MGM Studios, looking to turn The Water Dancer into a movie. Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole, the two guys who wrote the screenplay, I understand wrote the screenplay for Black Panther, and a couple other people who co-wrote some of the comic books for Black Panther. So those are all the defendants and co-defendants. So it's kind of labor intensive to investigate all these people and contact them. I understand that they've all been served with the legal document. That they all have this document already. Everybody in New York, and I understand everybody in California got it this week. And so just walk through this. I'm alleging that Coates' willful copyright infringement of his books and articles, Between the World and Me, We Were 8 Years in Power, and The Water Dancer, the comic books, the Black Panther comic book series, Captain America comic book series, and the Black Panther movie, to the extent that he was involved in that. I mean, I'm guessing that to the extent that he was involved in the Black Panther movie or the screenwriters of the movie. I'm trying to get them. I'm alleging that that's all being plagiarized from my book, Stock Exchange. That over the course of a decade, he has, copied numerous passages, themes, and ideas, my expression of those ideas and themes, and tried to write it in my voice. What I call shock exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk. I'm alleging that he's trying to sound like he's from rural Virginia. He's trying to write like he's from Prince Edward County, Virginia, and Farmville, Virginia. That's how important Farmville, Virginia is. People don't know. The people are trying to write in my voice, which I'm alleging. Comic books, and the movie, Black Panther movie, the dialogue. I'm alleging they're trying to write in my voice, in my cadence, which I call shock exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk, and run it through a continuous loop. The dialogue for the movie Black Panther is based on my writing and how I sound, and linguistically how I write and how I sound. Like that from rural Virginia. That's how important Prince Edward County, Virginia is. That's how important Farmville, Virginia is, which is what I'm alleging. That's sort of the high level of what the case is about. And these are the players. Penguin Random House, which is owned by Bertelsmann, has been publicly silent, and they continue to profit from the sales of the book. Marvel Comics has been publicly silent. Disney, which produced the Black Panther movie and the comic books, has been publicly silent. And they have not denounced Coates or Ryan Coogler or Joe Robert Cole, the screenwriters, for that theft, which is what I'm alleging. It's all alleged. So I'll use the word alleged a lot in this podcast because it's all alleged, and these people have a right to defend themselves. I'm just trying to make people aware of what the case is about, and this is all public knowledge. The Atlantic, which has published numerous articles plagiarized by Coates, has been publicly silent. The Apollo Theater, never heard back from them. I've contacted a lot of these people already. And what I'm asking for, basically I'm asking for the court to, obviously give me the copyright for all the books and the articles, and to bring certain different, asking for damages in some cases, and asking for some of these people just to not be able to get a copyright in perpetuity in some examples. So I just walked through each of the different books in detail, and a little more granular level about what I'm saying and what I'm asking for. So the Water Dance again, I'm alleging that they practically stole the heart of Shock Exchange, and that it's basically trying to. Most of the people who talked to me about the book have said they liked the stories about my family and the background in Prince Edward County and so on and so forth. I'm alleging that the Water Dance stole the heart of Shock Exchange. That it's based on, the setting is based on my description of Prince Edward County and Farmville, Virginia. The main character is based on my description of my life, and the other characters are based on my parents and my grandparents. How he describes these people is similar to how I described my parents and my grandparents. And I'm alleging he took numerous passages, rewrote the passages, changed the words around, and then moved the passages out of sequence in order to master piracy. That's what I'm alleging. It took me years to investigate Shock Exchange. It took me years to learn how to practice writing in my voice. It took me years to write the book, over 2.5 years to write the book and investigate and to do the research on Shock Exchange, on the Virginia history, on the other concepts in the book as well. And I'm alleging he stole the sweat of my brow. That it would take them decades, not centuries, to replicate this without my book in front of him. I'm alleging that he showed arrogance and disdain in copying my work, that he threw shots at me, so threw subliminal messages at me, like almost trying to troll me a little bit, almost like bragging about copying it and trying how he got away with it. That's what I'm alleging. He copied the characters, which I mentioned earlier. The characters, I've been told that people read my book, that I write about my grandparents, parents, and my family and friends in so much detail that they actually thought they knew these people. And I'm alleging the only way you can explain the similitude between the characters in Shock Exchange and the characters in the Water Dance is that he copied it. Coates must have copied it. It's the only way you can explain it. That's what I'm alleging. I'm saying he tried to copy the same concept and feel of Shock Exchange, where I describe Prince Edward County in Farmville. I'm alleging he describes the place in the Water Dance in a similar manner. And he tried to copy certain themes, major themes from the book, as if it was his own ideas. I'm alleging he tried to create what are called appearance of dissimilarity. He added Harriet Tubman to the book. And Harriet Tubman, a real American hero, beaming herself through history and freeing slaves through magic and using conduction and teleportation. And I'm alleging that he added that there to master piracy. Took a real story with real characters and then added Harriet Tubman to the story and have her beaming herself through history and teleporting through history and time and freeing slaves through magic instead of guile and courage. And what other purpose would it serve other than to try to master piracy. That's what I'm alleging. Obviously, I'm alleging he tried to, he's trying to replicate my writing style and write my voice. And I've been writing like this forever. My high school English teacher, Mr. Peel, Lydia Peel, encouraged us to write in our own voices and tried to discourage us from trying to write like other people. There's nothing wrong with reading James Baldwin or Richard Wright or Ralph Ellison, but you find your voice. They found their voices. You find your voice. That's what makes you unique. What makes you different from other people is your unique voice. And I stayed my voice the entire time. And if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. But I'm going to write my voice. That's what makes me unique from other people. And I wanted to make sure that my story and my book would represent the area I'm from, Prince Edward County, Virginia. And I stayed in my voice. And Miss Peel, she helped me edit the book. That she gave me notes and gave me her markup through the mail. We talked over the phone. We communicated via email. That she understood how I wrote, and she understood what I was trying to say. And I hadn't spoken to her in decades, and she was gracious enough to help me edit the book. So that's how important it was to me to write in my voice and make sure it remained authentic. And it took me years to write, to learn how to write, to craft this voice and to stay in my voice and to try to make people understand something in a way that's said from, like, as if you were from Farmville, Virginia. Make people understand it and explain it in a way that my parents and grandparents could understand it, who are no longer here. And I'm saying that he tried to replicate it. That he methodically, I'm alleging the Ta-Nehisi coach sat down with this book and methodically and meticulously tried to craft sentences like shock exchange and tried to write in my voice and act like he didn't know who I was. And that's copyright infringement. I'm alleging that The Water Dancer is over 400 pages, and it's practically it's incoherent. Now the passage doesn't make any sense. The only point is to replicate my voice and to sound like shock exchange. He's just trying to write sentences that look like mine. It's the only purpose. A lot of passages make no sense. They lead to nowhere, and the book is incoherent, which is what I'm alleging. Doesn't mean it's true, but it's what I'm alleging. And the only point is to try to sound like shock exchange and replicate shock exchange rhythmic prose and write in my cadence. That's it. I took my cadence and ran it through a continuous loop. That's the only point, which represents copyright infringement. I'm alleging that he told fantastical stories about his research. In a September 2019 interview with Oprah Winfrey at the Apollo in Harlem, he said that Monticello, which is Thomas Jefferson's home in Charlottesville, Virginia, was an invaluable resource for his research. He also told Gayle King on location in Monticello that it was a valuable resource for his research, and that the fictional plantation was based on Monticello. In October 2019, he told interview with Murphy Falcon in Baltimore, Maryland, in a pre-recorded video that he did research at Civil War battlefields, Monticello, the Whitney Plantation, and the Shirley Plantation. Okay? Just as an aside, the guy who runs Murphy Falcon, is actually a real lawyer from Baltimore. And in the show The Wire, he was the one who Clay Davis went to represent him in his court case. And the lawyer told Clay Davis not to stiff him on his fee. Same guy. He's a real lawyer in Baltimore. But as I said, so he said he went to the Shirley Plantation. Shirley Plantation is located in Charles City, Virginia. And so Charlottesville is 50 minutes from where I grew up in Prince Edward County. I've never been to Monticello. Monticello never even come up in conversation before. Never thought about going to Monticello. I went to business school in Charlottesville. For 2 years, I was in Charlottesville. I've driven past Monticello hundreds of times. I've never been to Monticello. Never had an interest in going. Facts. Black folks from this area don't just wake up on Saturday morning and say, hey, guys, let's go to Monticello this weekend. That's something we would do. The Shirley Plantation, again, is located in Charles City, Virginia, where I hung 44 points on Charles City in a high school basketball game. And I'm alleging that looks like what Coach did was visit places that he read about in Shock Exchange as if he was actually Ralph Baker, and told book critics and the public that the story for The Water Dancer came from those places. And he assumed that critics and the public would be gullible enough to take his word for it. And that this fantastical explanation, pursuant to where he got the story from, is evidence of copying. That's what I'm alleging. that it's too many similarities that he is dying to go to Charlottesville, near where I grew up and where I went to business school. And he's dying to go to Charles City, Virginia. Got the story from research at Charles City, Virginia, a plantation in Charles City where I hung 44 points on them fools in high school. So I'm a legend. That's evidence of copying. This fantastical story. And he's assumed people's going to be gullible enough to take his word for it. Then he said that he got the prose from slave novels. The prose and the water dance inspired by slave novels. And that on his book tour, he said that the voice in his previous books were pretty much his writing, which conflicts with what he said earlier. 2015, he said the prose and the water dancer was looked nothing like his first book, The Beautiful Struggle. That the prose was his attempt to aim like Baldwin and write like Baldwin. And he aimed for James Baldwin. He wanted to write like James Baldwin. And his book tour in 2019, he's saying that those books were pretty much his voice, but that the prose and the water dancer came from slave novels or was inspired by slave novels. And I'm saying that the conflicting statements about where his prose came from is evidence of copying. That I'm alleging that he's trying to write in my voice and trying to copy shock exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk, and trying to convince people that he's getting it from James Baldwin or from slave novels. I'm saying that's evidence of copying the conflicting statements. And that's pretty much for water dance. I'm also alleging he copied again several passages and copied the characters and also copies the names for the characters. One character named Lydia, similar to Lydia Peel. One character named Finney, which is similar to Coach Finney, which I wrote about in my book. Another character named Parnell Johns, which is similar to Vernon Johns and Barbara Johns, which I wrote about in Shock Exchange. So the characters have similar names as well. And the addendums to the lawsuit have all the similar passages from The Water Dancer to Between the World and Me and the comic books and the movie. So I broke down the movie as well with all the dialogue and lined it side by side with my writing and my prose to show how they're trying to copy it. And it's all alleged. It's all alleged. I want to make sure I repeat that. It's all what I'm saying. They have a right to defend themselves. That there are too many similarities for it not to be plagiarized. That's what I'm saying. Then going to 8 Years of Power, I'm actually saying he stole the sweat in my brow. For instance, the themes he's writing about, the concepts he's writing about, sounds similar to Shock Exchange. He wrote about Reconstruction. He described Reconstruction similar to the way I described it. I wrote about Reconstruction and Shock Exchange and how the period before Harry Byrd, described the period before Harry Byrd came into office, and then Harry Bird's time in office, and then how those black teenagers, my parents, older cousins, so on and so forth, finished the Byrd machine. But a lot of what I know about Reconstruction came from Dr. Ron Heinemann's history class at Hampden-Sydney College in the mid-'80s and late '80s. That's how I know so much about Reconstruction. I'm alleging that he's trying to replicate my analysis, my interpretive analysis of Reconstruction. And for the 8 Years in Power, he wrote about black politicians in South Carolina during Reconstruction and claimed it was inspired by Obama, and he also cited Du Bois. And I'm saying that looks like I'm alleging that he copied my interpretive analysis and trying to make people think it was inspired by Obama. So I'm alleging he copied my analysis on Reconstruction. He wrote an article. So the 8 Years in Power is like 8 articles from the Water Dance from the time Obama was in office. So 8 articles he wrote for the Atlantic. He put it in the book. He also wrote these essays in between each of the chapters. And so one of the articles he wrote for the Atlantic, he also put in the book, was called The Black Family and Age of Mass Incarceration. I'm alleging that he copied it from Shock Exchange. That's plagiarized. I wrote about mass incarceration and the economic impact on blacks. And my analysis came from the interpretation extrapolation that I had from a case study from Dr. Henley's advanced economics class at Hampden-Sydney College in my senior year in college in 1989. And I've been talking about this for years, long before I wrote the book. And I'm saying that he plagiarized it and tried to make people think it was coming from someplace else. This article called The Black Family Age Mass Incarceration, which was critically acclaimed. So it's an article in Atlanta. He also put it in a book called We Were 8 Years in Power. I'm alleging he plagiarized the case of reparations as well. The case of reparations describes redlining. It also describes reparations. And I'm alleging that his interpretive analysis of redlining was copied from Shock Exchange. My first job out of college, I worked at a bank. In Lynchburg, Virginia, my first assignment and training program was to study the Community Reinvestment Act and to master the Community Reinvestment Act. And I described in the book how the Community Reinvestment Act came about and how these blacks in Illinois fought against redlining vociferously and helped change the banking industry. He writes something very similar for case reparations. One of the examples he used for reparations about John Randolph giving land to slaves and to his former slaves, same thing as Stock Exchange. John Randolph gave land to his former slaves in Prince Edward County, Virginia. And there were free blacks living in Prince Edward County decades before slavery ended. And he used the same example. I also said that he alleged that he demonstrated arrogance and disdain in copying my work. And that on the first page, on the cover of the article, the case of reparations has a picture with my name in it, Baker. And I'm alleging that he put my name there to antagonize me and to get my dander up. That's what I'm alleging. It's not just there for no reason. And the case of reparations, I understand, is the best-selling article at The Atlantic, in Atlantic's history. And whenever people talk about reparations, they always cite that article, and they keep, whenever you click on the case of reparations, The Atlantic makes money from it. I don't. Okay? So I'm saying he plagiarized it. This was in 2014, shortly after I sent him my book that he likely said he didn't receive. So we'll see what he says and what his legal team says. And I'm also alleging that for the essay, he tried to write it in my voice. Between the World and Me, a book that he wrote in 2015 and won the National Book Award. I'm alleging that he tried to write it like Stock Exchange. The concepts in the book are similar to concepts from Stock Exchange and how he described his life. He began to describe his life how I describe my life. His life started sounding like my life, and his passions began to sound like my passions. And I'm alleging that he took numerous passages from Stock Exchange, changed the words around and moved them out of sequence, and called it Between the World and Me. He tried to write the whole book in my cadence, practically. And then I'm saying the book is basically incoherent. It's just these passages that try to sound like Stock Exchange and try to mimic my cadence and my literary writing style, and trying to replicate Stock Exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk. And I'm saying it's copyright, it represents copyright infringement. That my literary writing style and my voice is obviously very unique and it should be protected. He's just writing passages that try to sound like, that don't make any sense. A lot of the passages are incoherent. Just linguistically and rhythmically trying to replicate my voice and try to sound like Stock Exchange. That's what I'm alleging. He won the National Book Award with that book. And early during his book tour for the Between the World and Me, he said it was he was asked about he was asked about his writing process, and he said he aimed to write like Baldwin. The book represents his attempt to write like Baldwin. I'm alleging that's not Baldwin's writing. I read James Baldwin in high school. That's not Baldwin's writing. I'm alleging that he is trying to deceive purposely tried to deceive the public that it came from Baldwin. That he tried to copy it from me and tried to deceive the public that he came from Baldwin. I'm saying that these deceptive statements are evidence of copying. And I lay out the passages from Between the World and Me lined up with Stock Exchange. The passage where he describes his life like I describe my life. He describes his passions similar to my passions. How he linguistically tried to sound like Stock Exchange. Lined up. Took me a while to do this too. Then I went to the comic books. He started writing comic books for Black Panther, for Marvel Comics around 2016. He wrote the Black Panther comic book series and Captain America comic book series. I'm alleging that he tried to write these comic books in my voice. He practically just took all the dialogue is based on my cadence and my literary writing style, what I call Stock Exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk. And I'm alleging he just basically took my cadence, tried to copy it, ran it through a continuous loop, and called it Black Panther. Had all characters speaking the same voice, so it's difficult to tell which characters are which is what I'm alleging, and that he tried to have the characters speaking Stock Exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk, like they're from rural Virginia. And that they're just repeating words in place with no forward movement, which is what I'm alleging. No forward movement at all, just repeating words in place to try to replicate Stock Exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk. And a lot of dialogue is practically incoherent. only purpose it serves is to replicate the linguistically sound like me. The same thing, and that's basically the way it's written. It's the heart of the Black Panther comic books, the heart of the Captain America comic books. Same thing for Captain America. He's just basically writing passages to try to linguistically sound like Shock Exchange, and take my cadence and just run it through a continuous loop, try to copy it and run it through a continuous loop and call it Captain America. Now, I have similar passages in the legal document to show what he's doing. And the same thing with the movie. I watched the movie, broke down the dialogue for the characters in the movie, and the screenwriters are trying to write in my voice. They're trying to, all the characters speaking the same voice. They repeat words in place to try to replicate Shock Exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk. And the screenwriters practically try to copy my cadence, run it through a continuous loop, and call it Black Panther, if you can believe that. This is what I'm alleging. And the Black Panther movie was one of the top 10 best-selling movies in history, and the best-selling movie by a black director. Now, I'm alleging that they copied the dialogue from Shock Exchange. They're linguistically trying to sound like me and try to copy my cadence and run it through a continuous loop. And the dialogue is what separates this movie from other Marvel Comics movies. Separates this movie from other movies in the Marvel Comics universe because of the prose. That's what makes it different from other Marvel Comics movies. And it's the heart of the movie. If you can believe that. So you got black folks doing cartwheels and backflips to get to that movie. Go to see Black Panther 5 or 6 times. I'm alleging that it's copied. The dialogue is copied from me, a book that I wrote and published. Shock Exchange was written by blacks and published by blacks. This is the book of Eli right here. This is what they want. This is that heat that they're looking for. What Ray Nathan from Sugar Hill says, this is the flavor that they savor up here, neighbor. Written and published by blacks. The book of Eli. And black folks aren't aware of it. The public won't tell you about it, so that's why I'm telling you about it now. I'm alleging that Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole, the screenwriters for Black Panther, tried to write the dialogue in my voice and tried to replicate how I tell a story, all my features, and the pacing in telling a story like they're from rural Virginia. They're trying to tell a story like they're from rural Virginia and trying to copy my pacing and trying to replicate my voice. And again, run the cadence out, try to copy the cadence and run it through a continuous loop over and over and over again. And have all the characters speak in Shock Exchange, rhythmic prose, and tedious talk as if they were from Prince Edward County, Virginia. That's what I'm alleging. I put all the similar passages in the legal document. And it's already been assigned to a judge. This is some of the claims that I'm asking for. I'm basically asking for all the intellectual property. I'm asking for the copyright for Between the World and Me, The Water Dancer. We Were 8 Years in Power. And I'm asking the court to keep Ta-Nehisi Coates from never getting a copyright in perpetuity in life. Anybody he's involved with, to block them from getting a copyright in perpetuity. Anybody he consults with, anybody who wants to, if he sneaks around, tries to do another project under the radar, not to bar them from getting a copyright in perpetuity. That's what I'm asking for. I'm alleging this is a brazen disregard for U.S. copyright law. It's all alleged. BCP, Literary Inc., I'm asking for all the copyrights that they own, stuff that he copied. The Atlantic, I'm asking for the Atlantic to be shut down. I'm asking for Lorene Powell Job and David G. Bradley to never get a copyright in perpetuity in life. David G. Bradley sold a majority stake to Lorene Powell Jobs in 2017. I understand. I'm asking for 100% of the purchase price. I'm alleging that what he sold to her were plagiarized articles. The value, 100% of the value of the Atlantic, was separated Atlantic from other newspapers and magazines like that, was that from plagiarized articles from Shock Exchange, content plagiarized from Shock Exchange, and their the Atlantic's branding of Coates, marketing of him as if he was actually Ralph Baker, and marketing him as having written these concepts, making him a thought leader on redlining, a thought leader on mass incarceration, a thought leader on Reconstruction, and a thought leader on these concepts from Virginia, and him having developed this Virginia's rhythmic prose that he said came from Coates, that he developed it, independent of Shock Exchange. I'm saying that's 100% of the value of the Atlantic. I understand they sold the Atlantic to Lorene Powell Jobs like 70% for $100 million. I'm asking for 100% of the purchase price. The value, the going concern value of the Atlantic is based on content they copy from Shock Exchange, articles they copy from Shock Exchange, and having Brandon Ta-Nehisi Coates as a leader, thought leader on these concepts, on redlining, mass incarceration et al. That was copied from Shock Exchange. That's what I'm alleging. I'm asking for 100% of the purchase price. And I'm asking the court to keep David G. Bradley and Lorene Powell Jobs to never own a copyright in perpetuity. The brazen disregard for U.S. copyright law. That's what I'm saying. Bertelsmann, they published the We Were 8 Years in Power, Between the World and Me and the Water Dance. And I'm asking for the copyright, and statutory damages for those books. I'm asking for Bertelsmann not to be able to publish books for a extended period of time. For Random House, Random House and its subsidiaries not to be able to publish books for an extended period of time. And Bertelsmann also owns music, has a music outfit. I'm asking the court to bar them from distributing music, streaming, whatever, promoting their streaming services in the U.S. in perpetuity. It's a brazen disregard for U.S. copyright law. This has been going on for nearly a decade. That's what I'm asking the court for. Spiegel and Graw, I'm asking for statutory damages, and I'm asking for Spiegel and Graw to be shut down in perpetuity. Chris Jackson, the editor for these books, Between the World and Me, We Were 8 Years in Power, The Water Dancer, he's gotten a come up off these books. From what I understand, that he was an editor at the Atlantic after the success of Between the World and Me. He got his own imprint called One World. So he has an imprint under Random House now. And I'm asking him not to be able to get a copyright in perpetuity. Okay, the Apollo, I'm asking for any intellectual property related to that book they turned into a stage play. Any intellectual property, scores, music, what have you, that they created. I'm asking for all the intellectual property for that. I'm asking the Apollo to not be able to get a copyright in perpetuity going forward. This is the Apollo in Harlem. Camilla Forbes, who's an executive producer at the Apollo. I'm asking who understand turn the book into Between the World and Me into a stage play. I'm asking for her not to be able to get a copyright in perpetuity. So I'll just high level some of the other companies like Warner Discovery. I'm asking for the copyright for the theatrical production that HBO put on TV. I'm asking for the copyright for that and for statutory damages from Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns HBO. Miss Oprah Winfrey, she's trying to turn The Water Dance into a movie. I'm asking her to stop. I sent her a letter this summer. There's been some back and forth between me and her lawyer, but her lawyer kind of indicated that that interview she had with Coates on Apple TV is legitimate news and commentary. I'm saying it's not. That trying to promote him as having created The Water Dancer, independent of Shock Exchange, is not legitimate news and commentary. I find it hard to believe. And that she has been, she has a financial interest in the movie. So her heavily promoting the book is a way to increase the value of the movie. Okay? That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying that this is copyright infringement. It's copyright infringement. So we got a couple people in the chat room. Trisha said this is a bestseller, and J. Rod said it's a great book and it sounds very educational. So yeah, I appreciate the commentary, but As far as, we'll take questions at the end, by the way. We'll field questions at the end. So I'm saying that Miss Oprah Winfrey, in heavily promoting the book, she was promoting the book. She added to her book club. She promoted every week up until her interview with Coates on Apple TV is a way of increasing the value of the movie. They still haven't dropped it. Still haven't dropped plans to promote the movie, to produce the movie. I understand they've hired a producer, Nia DaCosta, to produce The Water Dancer. So I'm alleging that they're gonna make a movie out of my book, my description of my life, and my parents' life, and my grandparents' life, and they're not gonna pay me for it. Miss Oprah Winfrey's gonna do this. And I'm asking her to stop. I'm asking her not to be able to get a copyright in perpetuity for any work of art. This is a brazen disregard for U.S. copyright law. That's what I'm alleging. Apple TV, I'm asking Apple TV to take the stuff off their streaming service. Plan B, Brad Pitt, which owns Plan B, is trying to turn the book into a movie. Water Dance into a movie. I'm asking him to stop. I'm saying this is brazen disregard for U.S. copyright law. I'm asking for Brad Pitt and some of the executives of Plan B not to be able to get a copyright in perpetuity. Either we're nation laws or we're not. MGM, same thing. They're trying to turn the book into a movie, Water Dance into a movie. Now we get to Disney. This way gets a little more complicated because you have 2 comic books in a movie and 2 movies, really. 2 comic books and 2 movies. So I'm asking for the copyright for all the movies, all the comic books, the Black Panther comic book and the Marvel and Captain America comic book. I'm asking for the copyright for Black Panther, first Black Panther that was published, that was put out in 2018. I'm asking the court to, I'm asking for statutory damages as well. They made over $1 billion, billions of dollars. They made billions of dollars on the Black Panther movie. That doesn't include the accessories, like the other stuff they sold and the money from their distributors. The theaters made money as well. I'm asking for money. I deserve to be compensated. You just can't take my book and rewrite it and say it's yours. Disney wouldn't allow this. Disney would not allow you to copy Mickey Mouse and all his features. How he sounds, how he looks, how he moves, his mannerisms, and his voice, and then you make billions of dollars off of it and say, I never heard of Disney. They wouldn't allow it. It wouldn't be allowed in this country. That's what I'm alleging that Disney did. So I'm alleged. I'm asking that the screenwriters, Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole. Ryan Coogler also does produce, I guess he directed Creed. He directed Fruitvale Station. And then the other guy, Joe Robert Cole, directed something about O.J. Made in America. These people, I'm alleging these people know exactly what they're doing. I'm asking that they never get a copyright in perpetuity. There's a brazen disregard for U.S. copyright law. I'm asking they never get a copyright in perpetuity. I'm asking for the copyright for the Black Panther movie. I'm asking the judge not to allow Disney to get a copyright for a new movie or new comic book for an extended period of time, including Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, which is due out in November. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see if they actually launch Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. We'll see if they launch that. It'll be interesting to see what they do. So I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know if the dialogue is written in my voice. I don't want to make assumptions because it's all a legal matter. And it's all alleged what I'm saying. So I don't want to say things I can't prove. But I understand that the first Black Panther movie, when it was launched, it was about maybe 10% of Disney's profits, a sizable part of Disney's profits. And so usually with these publicly traded companies, they have to put out a note to their shareholders if there's something material. So I haven't heard from Disney. I understand they've been served at least either last week or week before last. They've been served with these legal documents. I alerted them in May they were getting sued for copyright infringement. And there was some back and forth with me and Disney's lawyer, outside counsel. They're saying there's no evidence that, Coates or Ryan Coogler or Joe Robert Cole received my book or had a chance to review it. And I asked Disney to do an internal review of the defendant and the 2 screenwriters, and also impress upon Disney and its outside counsel the importance of ensuring that the truth emerges. What's the truth and what's the facts? It's important to ensure that the truth emerges. That's all I'm trying to get to. What's the truth and the fact pattern? I don't want to, obviously this is all alleged. I don't want to go around accusing people of something they're not doing, but what's the truth? And too many similarities for it not to be plagiarized. That's how I'm looking at it. That's the only way you can explain similitude. And so, like I was saying, that usually if it's considered material, a publicly traded company will have to put out a note to a shareholder, something called an 8K, to a shareholder, alerting them that they're being sued and a potential impact on their financials. I don't think Disney has been highly promoting Black Panther. I don't think so. It's the way they're promoting is different from how they promoted the first movie. So I'm not sure. All right. What they're going to do. So it would be interesting to see if they actually launch it, if they put out an 8K to their shareholders. I know they're delaying some movies. I know they're also raising ticket prices for their theme parks. I don't know if it has anything to do with this lawsuit. I'm not sure. So that's basically it. That I'm just trying to make the public aware of this, of what's going on. Before we get to questions, I just want to also say that this costs money to bring these things to fruition, to bring this lawsuit. And so anybody who wants to buy my book, you can send money to my Cash App. Send me $35 to my Cash App. It costs me money to print it and ship it. That covers cost for shipping and handling. And my Cash App is Shock Exchange 1, the $ Shock Exchange 1, SHOCKEXCHANGE 1. Anybody who wants to contribute to this, just help me fund the lawsuits or the legal costs. You can also send money to my Cash App. If you send, you want to buy the book, you send it to my Cash App. Send me $35, your name, address, phone number, email address. I'll send you a copy. There must be something to it because people keep trying to copy it. At least I'm alleging this. Everybody wants it. And the corporate media is not going to tell you about it, per se. I mean, you think about it, I'm actually suing the media. Disney owns ESPN, ABC, Warner Brothers Discovery owns HBO, CNN, Turner Broadcasting Station, and other people clicked up with the media. So if you want to make a donation, you can send money to my Cash App, Shock Exchange 1. It's SHOCKEXCHANGE 1, $. Somebody sent me a text message about Zelle. Let's see. Yeah. I may give people my Zelle information at some point. I don't know if I want to do it online, but so that's basically it. And another thing is, anybody in the media interested in the story, you can reach me at ralphbakerjr@msn.com. Legitimate media sources who want to bring the story to light, because I don't think the public needs to be made aware of this, and they're just not aware of it. They're just not aware of the lawsuit or the implications, and that's basically it. I'm just trying to make people aware of this, and just me versus City Hall. These people are well funded. Corporations are well funded. They have whole legal departments who just probably going through this lawsuit right now, trying to figure out how they're gonna rip it apart, and whole legal departments who just get paid to just go at people like me. So that's basically it. So I'm taking questions from the chat room. Let's see. Let's see here. I think oh yeah, someone also mentioned someone mentioned great author Donald Goines, his family received nothing and everything taken from him. So I'm glad Mr. Baker's doing what he's doing. Let the chips fall where they may. And I guess Trisha said she read everything about Donald Goines. Those are good points. Those are good points that, these are not unusual stories. that, hear stories about, Donald Goins' family. You also hear stories about Little Richard and these people, where people created art and other people made money from it. Everybody made money from it except for them. So, but I own the intellectual property. I wrote it, and I own the exclusive rights to Shark Exchange. And I have a right to defend my intellectual property. Within the limits of the law, of course. That's all I'm trying to do. So it's a lot to unpack, I know. But I will put this video up on YouTube later on today on our YouTube channel. So if anybody, again, I'll ask people to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the video. And that's basically what's up. We'll see what Disney does as far as the movie is concerned, if they're going to launch it, if they ever talk about the lawsuit or what have you. Someone said I get very emotional when I hear the story. You aren't the only one. So it's I'm trying to take the emotion out of it. And that was big part of the lawsuit, in that having the right to lawsuit and just based on the facts. That's all a court really cares about, the facts, and not the emotion and how you feel. All they really care about are the facts. So I assumed that the book would be, when I wrote it, the book would be unique. And there's basically a real story about real characters. And it's emotional when you write about your parents and your grandparents, like that. And you have to be real careful, because my parents and my grandparents never gave me the right to write about them or say anything about them. And that was the hardest part about the movie to write, because if you get that wrong, you can't go home anymore. You can't go back to Farmville if you get that wrong. And my parents and my grandparents never gave me the right to talk about them or put them in a book. So you have to be very careful when you're talking about people without permission. And I wanted to make sure their story was told, and the story of my parents and my aunts and uncles and my older cousins. I wanted to make sure they get that story out there, our side of the story out there. A story that wasn't very well known, the version from the people who actually from Prince Edward County. And I wanted to make sure that version of the story was out there. So I'm glad my family liked it. That was the main thing. I was glad everybody was happy with it, that I didn't screw up too badly. But let's see what else. I'm trying to work this chat thing here. Okay, the book is a keepsake, apparently. That's the book of Eli. Everybody wants it. Make sure you keep it under lock and key. on too many. Make sure you keep it under. Right. And so this is, this is all alleged. Someone says it's hard to, someone take your work and benefit from it. Yes, it's all alleged on my part. So again, they have a right to defend themselves. And again, I'm asking people in the media who's interested in the story to reach out to me. I'm also asking people who want to help fund the lawsuit. Send money to my Cash App. Or buy the book. You can send money to my Cash App, and I'll send you a copy of it. So we got about 6 more minutes. I don't want to keep people here past an hour. So any more questions in the chat room, let me know. Okay, so that's basically it. That's basically Trump and the G, Ta-Nehisi Coates hit with copyright infringement lawsuit. And thanks for listening, and we'll see where this goes. But at some point, maybe the media may pick this up. At some point, the public may start talking about it. But I think the next marker would be if or when Disney launches Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, or if they put out a note to their shareholders that this lawsuit is out there, and whether it has any impact, it can have any impact on their financials. So that's basically it, and thanks for tuning in. Thank you.